The wind on Brindle's Reach had teeth that night. It bit through the cracks in old window frames and rattled the metal roof of every house in the small frontier town. Daniel Hayes barely noticed it anymore. He had spent the last 9 winters here, and the cold had stopped surprising him a long time ago. He pulled his gloves tighter as he closed up the colony heater shop. 3 units repaired today, 2 more waiting for parts that probably would not arrive until next month. Frontier life was always like that. You fixed what you could with what you had. You did not complain. His daughter Lily was waiting for him by the school gate, her red scarf wrapped twice around her face. She was 9 years old and small for her age, but her eyes lit up the moment she saw the rust-colored truck pull up. "Dad, you are late again," she said as she climbed inside. "By 8 minutes," Daniel said with a small smile. "I think you will survive." She rolled her eyes the way she always did, then leaned against him as he drove. The heater in the truck rattled, but worked. The road home stretched through tall pine forests buried in fresh snow. The storm had eased a little, leaving the world quiet and silver. They were halfway home when Lily sat up sharply. "Dad, stop!" Daniel pressed the brakes. "What is it?" She was pointing into the trees on the right side of the road. "There, something is there." He looked. At first he saw only snow and shadows. Then his eyes caught it. A small shape, lying very still in the white. Too small to be an animal, too colorful to be a rock. Daniel got out of the truck without a word. The wind cut into his face as he stepped off the road and into knee-deep snow. Lily followed, even though he told her to stay inside. She always followed. What they found made Daniel's heart stop for a moment. It was a child. A girl, maybe 7 years old by human guess. But she was not human. Her skin was pale, almost silver under the moonlight, and her hair was a strange soft blue. She wore a torn silver outfit that looked like it had once been beautiful. Now it was burned at the edges and frozen stiff. Her tiny lips had turned a deep blue color. "Dad," Lily whispered. "She is alive. I saw her finger move." Daniel did not think. He moved. He shrugged off his thick winter coat and wrapped her in it. She weighed almost nothing in his arms. "Get back to the truck," he said. "Run, sweetheart, run." They drove home faster than the snow allowed. Daniel held the small alien girl against his chest with one arm while Lily steered the wheel from the passenger seat, something she had never done before. The little girl's breathing was so shallow he had to keep checking that it was there at all. At home, Daniel kicked the front door open and laid her on the rug by the fireplace. The fire was already burning low. He threw 2 more logs on and stoked it back to life. Lily ran for every blanket in the house. "Warm towels," Daniel said quickly. "Warm, not hot. Go." Lily ran. He pressed his hand gently to the side of the little girl's face. Her skin was cold, like river stone. Whoever she was, wherever she came from, she had been out there too long. Another hour, and she would not have been breathing at all. "Stay with me, little one," he murmured. "Just stay." Lily came back with the towels and a steaming mug of broth from the pot on the stove. Daniel wrapped the girl carefully and held the warm cup near her face, hoping the steam alone might do something. Slowly, very slowly, color began to return to her tiny cheeks. The blue faded into a soft lavender. Her chest rose a little stronger. Daniel let out a breath he did not know he was holding. He grabbed the radio from the kitchen counter and called Marla Doyle, the colony medic and his oldest friend. She lived 10 minutes down the road. He kept his voice low. "Marla, I need you here. Now, you. Bring everything." "What kind of everything?" she asked. "The strange kind." Marla did not ask anything else. While they waited, Lily sat cross-legged beside the little girl, holding her tiny hand. The alien child's fingers were thin and longer than a human's, with soft webbing between them. "She is so small, Dad," Lily whispered. "I know. Where did she come from?" "I do not know yet." The girl stirred once. Her eyes opened just a crack, large and dark like wet stones, with tiny silver flecks inside them. She looked up at Daniel with the kind of fear that did not need a translation. He smiled at her, slow and gentle. the same way he used to smile at Lily when she was a baby and scared of the dark. "You are safe," he whispered. "Nobody is going to hurt you here." She blinked slowly. Her lips moved. A single word came out, soft as a snowflake landing on glass. It was not a word he knew. Then her eyes closed again. Marla arrived 20 minutes later, shaking snow off her boots, medical bag slung over one shoulder. She took one look at the small figure on the rug, and her face went pale. "Daniel," she said carefully, "do you have any idea what you have brought home?" He looked down at the sleeping alien girl curled under his daughter's old quilt, her tiny hand still wrapped around Lily's finger. "No," he said quietly, "but I am not letting her freeze." Sunlight came late on Brindle's Reach in winter. By the time the sky finally turned a pale gray, the fire in Daniel's living room had been burning all night. He had not slept. He sat in the old armchair across from the rug, watching the small figure breathe under the quilt, counting each rise and fall like it was something fragile that might stop at any moment. Marla had stayed until after midnight. She had checked the alien child's pulse, her temperature, and the strange soft glow under her skin that came and went like a faint heartbeat. Then she had looked Daniel in the eye and told him she was no expert on off-world species, but that this little one would live. After that, she had left, promising to come back at first light. Lily had refused to go to bed. She had curled up on the couch in her pajamas and finally fallen asleep with one arm hanging off the edge, fingers almost touching the alien girl's blanket. Daniel rubbed his eyes and waited. The little girl woke just after dawn. She opened her eyes slowly, blinking at the ceiling. Then she sat up so fast that the quilt slid off her tiny shoulders. Her dark, silver-flecked eyes darted around the room, taking in the wooden walls, the burning fire, the strange human man watching her from the armchair. Panic flooded her face. Daniel raised both hands slowly, palms open. "Easy," he said in a soft voice. "Easy. Nobody is going to hurt you." She did not understand the words, but she understood the tone. She scrambled backwards anyway, knocking over a small lamp, and squeezed herself into the narrow space between the couch and the wall. She trembled there, half hidden. Lily woke up at the sound and rubbed her eyes. When she saw the frightened little face peeking from behind the couch, she did not panic. She did not even speak loudly. She just slid off the couch onto the rug, slow as honey, and reached for the bowl of warm broth Daniel had kept ready on the side table. "Hi," Lily whispered. "My name is Lily. We found you in the snow. You are safe now." She held out the bowl with both hands. Then she reached behind her and grabbed her old stuffed rabbit, the one with one missing ear, and placed it gently on the rug between them. The alien girl stared at the rabbit for a long time. Her huge dark eyes studied it as if it were the strangest creature she had ever seen. Then, very slowly, one small hand reached out from behind the couch. She picked up the rabbit. She held it against her chest, and she did not let go. Lily smiled. Daniel let out a quiet breath. It took almost an hour for the little girl to crawl out from behind the couch. She did it inch by inch, eyes always on Daniel, until she was sitting on the rug beside Lily. She sipped the broth carefully and made a small surprised sound, like she had never tasted anything so warm before. Marla arrived just before noon with a small black device in her hand. "I borrowed this from the trade office," she said, setting it on the coffee table. "It is old, but it works. Standard galactic translator. Most species are loaded in here." She powered it on. A soft chime rang out. The alien girl froze, then stared at the device with wide eyes. Daniel knelt slowly beside the rug, the translator between them. He spoke gently. "Can you understand me now?" The device chimed again, then made a soft series of musical notes that sounded almost like wind through small bells. The little girl's lips parted. She looked at Daniel as if seeing him for the first time. "Yes," she said, in a voice the translator turned into clear, careful English. "I can understand." Lily clapped her hands. "What is your name?" Daniel asked. The little girl hesitated. Then she said, "Nira." "Nira," he repeated softly. "That is a beautiful name. I am Daniel. This is my daughter Lily. You are in our home." Nira nodded slowly. Her small, webbed fingers tightened around the rabbit. "Can you tell us what happened to you?" Marla asked gently. Nira's eyes dropped to the floor. For a long moment she did not speak. When she did, her voice was very quiet, and the translator made her words sound even smaller. "There was a ship," she said. "A big ship. My caretaker and I were going to see my family. Then the bad ones came. There was fire, loud noises. My caretaker put me in a small pod. She said she would come too. But the door closed, the pod went down. I do not know where she is. I do not." Her lower lip trembled. "I think she is gone." Lily reached out without thinking and wrapped her arms around the smaller girl. Nira stiffened, then slowly leaned into her. The rabbit pressed between them. Daniel sat back on his heels. His chest felt tight. "Marla," he said quietly, "what do I do? She is not from here. Colony rules say I should report her." Marla looked at him for a long time. "Yes, they do. But the moment you tell Briggs, that little girl goes into a holding room at the colony office until somebody off-world comes to claim her, if anybody does. And we both know what kind of people sometimes claim lost alien children on the frontier." Daniel looked at Nira. Her eyes met his. They were wet and dark and afraid. Lily looked up at him too. "Dad," she whispered. "Can she stay? Just for a little while. Please." Daniel was quiet for a long time. He thought about the law. He thought about Briggs. He thought about the small, frozen body he had pulled out of the snow. "Yes," he said finally. "She can stay." Nira's tiny fingers reached out and held onto his sleeve. 3 weeks slipped by in the small wooden house at the edge of Brindle's Reach. The snow kept falling, but inside, something had started to grow that none of them had a name for yet. Daniel learned things he never expected to learn at 38 years old. He learned that Vossen children could not handle temperatures below 60 degrees without their skin turning a faint blue at the edges. He learned that they needed 2 warm meals a day or their tiny hands would shake. He learned that they slept curled up like cats, and that the soft glow under their skin grew brighter when they were happy and dimmer when they were sad. He sealed every draft in the house with extra weather stripping. He hung thick wool blankets over the doorways between rooms. He spent 2 long evenings in his workshop building Nira a pair of tiny insulated boots out of scrap material, lined inside with the softest fleece he could find in town. When he set them in front of her, she stared at them for a long moment, then looked up at him with wide eyes as if no one had ever made her anything before. She wore them everywhere after that, even in the house. Lily took to Nira like a sister she had been waiting her whole life to meet. The 2 girls were inseparable. Lily taught her how to play card games, how to braid her own hair, and how to make snow shapes through the window glass with her breath. Nira taught Lily a soft humming song from her home world, and the 2 of them would hum it together while they colored at the kitchen table. Daniel watched them sometimes from the doorway and felt something in his chest that he had not felt in nearly 4 years, not since his wife had passed. The house was warm again, and not just from the heaters. Nira learned human words faster than he thought possible. By the end of the 2nd week, she barely needed the translator at all. Her favorite word was bread. Her second favorite word was Daniel. "Daniel," she would say, tugging on his sleeve in the kitchen. "The bread is hot now." "Yes, it is, little one." "Daniel, can I have 1 more piece?" "You can have 2. She would smile then. A small, careful smile, like she still was not sure if it was allowed. But not everyone in town was kind. Old Mrs. Hollings down the road saw Nira through the window one afternoon and crossed herself like she had seen a ghost. 2 men at the fuel station stopped talking when Daniel walked in with both girls. A boy from Lily's class had told her that aliens were dirty, and she had come home crying. Daniel held his daughter's face in his hands that night and told her that some people were small inside, even when they were big outside, and that small people said small things. He told her that Nira was family now, and family did not flinch. Lily nodded, wiped her eyes, and went to bed beside Nira on the small extra mattress Daniel had set up in her room. Then, on a gray Tuesday afternoon, the knock came. Daniel opened the door to find Harlan Briggs standing on his porch, snow on the shoulders of his long colony coat. Briggs was the colony administrator, a stiff, thin man with sharp gray eyes and a clipboard he always carried like a weapon. "Mr. Hayes," Briggs said, "may I come in?" It was not a question. Daniel stepped aside. Briggs did not sit. He stood in the middle of the living room and looked at the small toys scattered on the rug, the tiny insulated boots by the door, the 2 empty mugs on the coffee table. Then he looked at Daniel. "There has been talk," he said, "about an unregistered off-worlder in your home." "There is a child in my home," Daniel said. "An alien child." "A child." Briggs sighed and set his clipboard down on the table. "Daniel, I have known you for 9 years. I know you are a good man. But the law is the law. Harboring an unregistered off-worlder is a serious thing. If the Colony Council finds out before we report this, you could lose your work permit. You could lose this house, and the child will be taken anyway." Daniel was quiet for a long moment. "How long do I have?" he asked. "A few days. A week at most. I cannot keep this off the books forever." Briggs picked up his clipboard. At the door he paused. "For what it is worth," he said quietly. "I am sorry, Daniel. I really am." Then he was gone. Daniel stood in the doorway for a long time, watching the snow fall. That night, after he had read Lily her bedtime story and tucked her in, he sat on the edge of the small mattress where Nira slept. She was not sleeping. Her huge dark eyes watched him in the lamplight. The rabbit clutched against her chest. "Daniel," she whispered, "the gray man. He wants me to go." "You heard. I have good ears." He smiled sadly. He brushed a strand of soft blue hair from her cheek. "Do you want to go?" he asked. Her tiny fingers found his and held on tight. "No," she said. "I want to stay with you. And Lily, please." Daniel's throat went tight. He bent down and kissed the top of her head, soft as he used to kiss Lily when she was very small. "Then you stay," he whispered. "I will keep you safe. I promise." He sat with her until she finally slept. But somewhere out in the dark beyond the colony, he knew something else was already coming. The thing about a small frontier colony was that everyone heard everything eventually. News on Brindle's Reach moved faster than the snowmobiles that hauled it. By Thursday morning, 3 different people had stopped Daniel at the fuel station, the bakery, and outside the post office to ask about the little blue-haired girl staying at his house. 2 of them were curious. One of them was angry. Daniel answered each one the same way, polite and short, and walked on. He had bigger things on his mind. Marla showed up at his door just after lunch with her coat still on and snow on her boots. She did not even take them off. She held up a small data slate and shoved it into his hands. "Sit down, Daniel," she said. "You need to read this." He read it standing up. He sat down halfway through. The colony patrol had finally located the crash site of Nira's escape pod, deep in the forest about 40 kilometers north. They had found the wreck of her transport ship, too, drifting in low orbit. Both had been examined. Both told the same story. The burn marks on the hull, the slug pattern in the metal, the kind of energy weapon used to cut through the bulkhead. Krellick's raiders. Daniel's stomach dropped. He had heard the name. Everyone on the frontier had. They were not pirates in the normal sense. Pirates wanted cargo. The Krellicks wanted living things. They were a long-limbed, cold-loving species from a deep ice world, and they made their money selling rare alien children to private collectors on faraway planets. The Vossen young, with their glowing skin and gentle eyes, were among the most expensive prizes in their trade. "They were not after the ship," Daniel said quietly. "They were after her." Marla nodded. "And they did not get her, which means they are still looking. He looked toward the hallway where the two girls were playing a quiet card game on the bedroom floor. "How long do I have?" he said. "Days," Marla said. "Maybe less. The Krelliks do not give up on a paying target, and word travels fast in the wrong circles." That night, Daniel did 3 things. First, he moved Nira's mattress out of Lily's bedroom and into a small space behind his workshop wall, hidden behind a stack of shelving he had built himself years ago. He told both girls it was a game, a new fort. Nira clapped her hands when she saw it. Lily helped him drag in blankets and a small lamp. Second, he taught Lily emergency signals. 3 short knocks on the cellar door meant safe. 1 long knock meant trouble. He showed her how to use the small handheld radio he had built from spare parts. He showed her how to lock the inside latch of the storm cellar that ran beneath the kitchen floor. "Dad, you are scaring me," she said. "I know, sweetheart," he said. "I am sorry. But I need you to know these things." She nodded slowly. She did not cry. She was her mother's daughter. Third, he took down the old hunting rifle from the high shelf in his closet. He cleaned it carefully at the kitchen table after the girls were asleep. He laid out boxes of ammunition. He checked the sights twice. His hands were steady. They had not always been. The next afternoon, Daniel drove out to the edge of town to fix a broken wind generator on the McAllister farm. He worked alone in the cold for 2 hours, climbing the steel tower in his heavy gloves. He was just coming down when he noticed the truck parked at the bottom of the access road. 2 men were leaning against it. They were not local. They were tall, both of them, with pale skin and dark eyes. Their coats were too thin for Brindle's reach. One of them smiled when Daniel walked over. "Long way from anywhere out here," the man said. His accent was strange, smooth, foreign. "Most places are," Daniel said. "Help you with something?" "We are looking for a child," the second man said. He had a small device in his hand, a scanner of some kind, and his eyes flicked over Daniel's truck and clothes as he spoke. "An off-worlder, small, blue hair, lost in the area, maybe 2 weeks ago. We are representatives of her family. We are very worried about her." Daniel kept his face calm. He had spent years working with stubborn machines and difficult customers. He knew how to keep a face calm. "Have not seen anything like that," he said. "But I will keep my eyes open. You staying in town?" "For a while," the first man said. He smiled again. It did not reach his eyes. "If you hear anything, we would be grateful, very grateful. I will let you know." Daniel climbed into his truck and drove away at the same easy speed he always drove. He did not look back. He did not speed up. Not until he was out of sight. Then his hands started to shake on the steering wheel. He had to pull over for a minute and breathe. When he got home, both girls came running to the door the way they always did. Nira reached up with her small arms and he picked her up without thinking. Lily wrapped both her arms around his waist. He stood in the doorway holding them, snow still falling outside, the porch light glowing yellow above them. He did not say anything to them. Not yet. But that night, after they were both asleep, he sat by the window with the rifle across his knees and watched the long, dark road that led to his house. The trees moved softly in the wind. The snow kept coming. Somewhere out there, in the cold, a storm was already turning toward his door. Daniel did not look away from the window. He waited. It was just past 9 at night when every light on Brindle's Reach died at the same time. The hum of the colony power grid, a sound so constant that most people forgot it existed, cut out in a single instant. The street lamps along the main road went dark. The neon sign above the bakery flickered once and faded. Even the soft glow from the spaceport on the far edge of town, the one that lit up the low clouds every night, was gone. Daniel was already at the window. He had been at the window for hours. He stood up the moment the lights died. He did not need a radio call to tell him what had just happened. He had been waiting for it. "Lily," he called. His voice was calm and low. "Now!" His daughter came running from the kitchen with Nira's small hand in hers. Nira was already in her insulated boots. Lily had a thick coat on and the small handheld radio clipped to her belt, just the way he had taught her. Daniel knelt down in front of both of them. He pressed his forehead briefly against Lily's. "You remember everything we practiced," he said. "Yes, Dad." 3 short knocks for safe. Do not come out for anything else. Not for shouting, not for crying, not for me. Do you understand? Lily's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. He turned to Nira. The small girl was trembling, but she met his eyes. "You take care of Lily for me," he whispered. "Can you do that?" Nira nodded once. Her tiny webbed fingers tightened around the rabbit she had not let go of in 3 weeks. Daniel lifted the trapdoor in the kitchen floor. He helped both girls down the wooden ladder into the storm cellar. He passed down extra blankets, a flashlight, and a thermos of warm broth he had prepared an hour earlier. Then he closed the trapdoor, slid the heavy rug back over it, and dragged the kitchen table across the rug. He picked up the rifle. He walked to the front of the house and turned off the porch light by hand. He stood by the window in the dark and waited. They came 20 minutes later, 3 of them on foot, moving through the snow with long, quiet strides. They were not human shapes. They were taller, thinner, with limbs that bent in too many places. Krelliks. Their pale eyes glowed faintly in the dark. They split as they approached the house. 1 went around the back. 2 came toward the front door. Daniel breathed out slowly. He had spent the last day rewiring something nobody would notice. Every heater in his small house had been turned up to full power. The whole place was now warmer inside than any Krelliks could tolerate for long. They liked the cold. They needed it. The front door splintered open with a single hard kick. Daniel was already moving. He fired from behind the couch. The first Krelliks went down hard, hit in the chest, and crashed backward into the snow on the porch. The second one returned fire with a strange weapon that hissed instead of cracked. A beam of pale light cut through the wall above Daniel's head and burned a hole the size of a coin in the wood. Daniel rolled behind the kitchen counter. His shoulder hit the floor hard. He fired again, missed. The second Krelliks darted into the living room, low and fast. Daniel reached up and yanked the lever on the heating unit beside the counter. A wave of hot air burst into the room. The Krelliks made a sound he had never heard before, a sharp clicking shriek, and stumbled backward. Its long limbs trembled. The cold, loving body could not handle the sudden heat. Daniel rose from behind the counter and fired twice. The Krelliks dropped. Then the back door exploded inward. The third one was bigger than the others. It came through the kitchen like a storm of limbs, knocking Daniel sideways before he could turn. He felt the burn of an energy bolt graze his shoulder. The pain was sharp and bright. He fell against the cabinets, dropped the rifle, and scrambled into the workshop hallway on his hands and knees. The Krelliks followed. Daniel had built his workshop with his own hands. He knew every inch of it. He knew where every tool was. He knew where the heavy heating duct ran along the ceiling, the one he had installed last winter, the one that fed hot air through every wall in the house. He hit the manual override beside the door. A blast of superheated air roared out of the open vent above the workshop bench. The Krelliks screamed, its tall body folding in on itself, its long limbs going slack. It crashed into a shelf and did not get back up. Daniel stood in the doorway, his hand pressed to his bleeding shoulder, breathing hard. A noise outside. Footsteps in the snow, moving away fast. The fourth one. There had been a fourth. It was running. Daniel did not chase it. He grabbed the rifle and stumbled back through the house. He pushed the kitchen table aside. He pulled back the rug. He gave 3 short knocks on the trapdoor. Then his legs gave out. He sat down hard on the kitchen floor. The trapdoor opened. Lily came up first. She saw him and screamed his name. Nira climbed up right behind her, the rabbit still pressed to her chest. Both girls reached him at the same time. "Dad," Lily was crying. "Dad, Dad, Dad." "I am okay," he whispered. He pulled them both against him with his good arm. "I am okay. You are okay." Outside, the colony defense sirens finally started to wail. Headlights flashed in the distance, coming up the long road toward the house. Daniel closed his eyes. He held his daughters. They were safe. Both of them. Daniel woke up in the small colony hospital with sunlight on his face and a dull ache in his shoulder. He did not remember falling asleep. He did not remember the ambulance. The last thing he remembered clearly was the weight of his 2 daughters in his arms on the kitchen floor. A familiar voice was speaking softly somewhere near the bed. "He is waking up. Marla." She was sitting in the visitor chair, dark circles under her eyes, a chart in her lap. She had been there all night by the look of her. Lily was curled up at the foot of his bed, fast asleep on top of the blankets. Nira was tucked under his good arm, breathing slow and steady against his side, the one-eared rabbit still in her grip. Daniel did not move. He just looked down at both of them and felt his eyes sting. "How long?" he whispered. "Almost a full day," Marla said. "Surgery went fine. Your shoulder will not be lifting heavy engines for a while, but you will keep the arm. The girls have not left your side since you came in." He swallowed past the dry feeling in his throat. "And the Krelliks?" "2 dead at your house. 1 captured at the spaceport trying to get to a ship. The 4th one got away in the storm, but defense forces have a perimeter up. They will find him." Daniel let his head fall back against the pillow. He closed his eyes for a long moment. "There is something else," Marla said quietly. "A ship arrived this morning, from Vossen space. They came as soon as they got word." Daniel opened his eyes. He already knew what was coming. The man who walked into his hospital room 2 hours later was tall and dignified, with the same pale silver skin and soft glow as Nira. His hair was long and the color of deep ocean water, and he wore robes of a soft blue and gray. He moved with a quiet grace that made the small room feel smaller. "Mr. Hayes," he said gently. The translator on his collar turned his musical words into clean English. "My name is Captain Rendell Voss. I have been searching for my niece for many months. I owe you a debt I cannot ever fully repay." He looked down at Nira, still asleep against Daniel's side. His eyes grew wet. He sat down slowly in the chair beside the bed. He did not reach for her. He just watched her sleep, like a man who could not quite believe she was real. "Her mother was my sister," Rendell said softly. "She passed 2 years ago. Nira was being brought to me, to live with me. The attack on the transport was the worst day of my life. We thought we had lost her." "She is a strong little one," Daniel said. "Yes." Rendell smiled, sad and proud at the same time. "She always has been." They sat in silence for a long moment. Daniel knew what came next. He had known since he heard the ship had arrived. "You are here to take her home," he said quietly. Rendell folded his long fingers in his lap. "By the law of my people, she must come with me. She is the last of her line. There are ceremonies, family duties, things that cannot be performed in any place but our home world." Daniel nodded. He could not speak. Nira stirred against his side. Her huge, dark eyes opened. She saw Rendell and went very still. The Vossen captain spoke to her softly in their own language. The translator did not catch all of it, but Daniel caught the tone. It was a tone of love. Nira sat up slowly. She did not let go of Daniel's sleeve. She looked at Rendell for a long time. Then she looked up at Daniel. Her small mouth trembled. "Daniel," she whispered, "do I have to go?" Daniel's chest broke open. He could not lie to her. He could not. "He is your family, little one," he said softly. "He has been looking for you. He loves you very much. But you are my family too." Her tiny fingers held his sleeve tighter. "And Lily." Lily had woken up by then. She climbed up the bed and wrapped her arms around Nira from behind, holding on like she would never let go. Rendell watched all of this very quietly. His eyes did not leave them. He stood up slowly. "Mr. Hayes," he said. His voice was thick. "May I speak with my council? There is a thing I wish to ask of them. It has not been done before. But I think, perhaps, it is time." Daniel did not understand, but he nodded. It took 8 days. In those 8 days, Rendell stayed in the colony guest house. He visited every afternoon. He read Nira her favorite stories. He met Lily. He drank coffee. badly, at Daniel's kitchen table. He listened. On the 8th day, he came to the house with a folded blue document in his hands and tears in his eyes. "It is granted," he said. Daniel stood up from the couch. "By the Vossen High Council," Rendell said, "in recognition of the bond formed and the life saved, Daniel Hayes is hereby recognized as the adoptive human father of Nira Voss, with full guardianship rights. She will live with you. She will visit her people. She will know both of her homes." Lily started crying. Nira ran across the room and threw her tiny arms around Daniel's legs. Daniel knelt down and gathered her up. He looked at Rendell over her small shoulder. He did not have words. He only nodded. Rendell nodded back. Spring came late that year on Brindle's Reach. But it came. Daniel stood on the porch one afternoon and watched the snow melt off the field behind his house. The sun was warm on his face for the first time in months. Out in the field, 2 girls were running through the wet grass, laughing, one human, one Vossen, both his daughters. Out among the stars, quiet stories began to travel about the human single dad on the frontier and the freezing alien girl he had carried home through the snow. The galaxy was a colder place than people knew, but it was a little warmer now.